Seb, I wanted to have you on because well, a few things actually. You served in the military as well. You serve, I guess I consider the RCMP federal, so I still consider it military-esque in the sense that you serve the country as a whole rather than just like a provincial, independent police force, a smaller police force. So I still consider you, when I say serving, I consider you serving always. It's not like you've ever stopped. You've just switched positions, different uniforms, different protocols, and a little, I would consider a smaller gun. Yeah, just
well,
depending.
This one works though.
Yeah.
Like,
the other one doesn't work. and so
I was a C9 gunner, so you know.
Yes. So, well, they work, but they just also, they also do a lot of other things. So for our listeners here, Seb is talking about a weapon system, and you were in the military. And not only were you in the military, you were in the French-Canadian military. So let's fuck it. Let's hit it right from where it lies. How is Quebec for you?
I left, didn't I?
Exactly, and you're French.
I am. Yeah.
Shit.
No, it was different. Growing up was certainly different, especially just. I don't like to play that card, but just being a visible minority at the time, it certainly wasn't an easy place to be.
When you're talking about Quebec, whereabouts are you from exactly?
Theoretically, well, I was born in Montreal City.
Okay.
But I grew up north of Montreal in a place called Saint-Jérôme, which is a little...
hole in the wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll call it that. It's much bigger now, and it's much better now.
Yep.
But it certainly was very small and sort of closed-minded, let's call it that.
Oh, okay. See, I like the way you put that. It's a very... What's the word? A very kind, politically correct, nice way to talk about your town. With Quebec, there's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't know. And I was shocked to find out how many Americans or the rest of the world really don't know the difference of like where Quebec sits in Canada and how it actually affects our country as a whole. And I didn't actually understand much about Quebec until I was in the military. And that's where a lot of the training is done. And like you said, you did your training there as well. Were you a reservist or Reg Force?
I was a reservist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many years were you reservist for?
3 years.
Okay.
So for me, it was all a stepping stone for policing, right? So
Yeah.
I had a bunch of, I knew already I was wanting to go in policing. So, and plus the Reg Force was closed anyway. There was nowhere to go at the time. Dark ages of the military, mid and 90s, like 96, 97, 98, 99. So really nothing going on, or not much going on. And so, the choice was made to go reserve so that I could focus on developing the other aspects of my games, which were to serve the purpose of going to policing.
When you became a police officer, what made you want to go federal and not just provincial?
I never looked at it that way. It wasn't a federal thing or a provincial thing. It was a policing thing.
Oh, okay.
And the RCMP for us in Quebec, because we have provincial police, the Quebec Provincial Police, and Ontario has the OPP. All we saw was always like big, federal investigations of bikers or biker gangs or
like
whatever.
HA and whatnot.
That's right. So every time we saw the RCMP, we saw the RCMP hitting the big targets, right? Doing the big things. So we got the false assumption that, they did better, bigger stuff. And to a certain extent, it's not the case. Like everybody chips in, but there is certainly a federal mandate and certainly big operations, but doesn't take anything away from the municipal.
Oh, no, for sure. I guess the reason I ask is it coming from a military side that you were already in. I was wondering if maybe there was ever a factor of posting or wanting to stay in Quebec, or I don't know if most people know, but like the RCMP Act very much similar to the military where you get posted and you do get a little bit of a say, depending on if your wife is attached to you or not in a police department or, health reasons. But for the most part, if I'm not wrong, posting is just you're going where you're told.
Yeah, there is some attempt at accommodating, if it's at all possible. I mean, they're not going to do it just to do it, although some people might argue that. But for me, it was always clear that I really didn't want to go back east. I wanted to come to BC specifically. I wanted to go to Surrey.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
We just knew it to be really busy, and I was, from Montreal, and I was from bigger city. I just figured this as as a new police officer on the street, wanting to do running and gunning and running around, the thing. Ultimately, not going to Surrey was probably one of the best things that happened to me in the end.
Where did you end up when you first got your first posting?
Yeah, so there's a funny story with this. Well, I don't know how funny it'll be. But
it'll be funny, I can guarantee it. I can already tell.
If it's not, we can edit it out.
If you're not, no way. No, I don't edit anything. Trust me. What did I talk about? I talked about rub and tugs with Nate Boyer by accident. Did you listen to that one?
I did, yeah.
Fuck, that was so bad. I was talking to him about that side piece. This is what happens. I was talking to him about that, and we just went on rants with it, and I just couldn't stop. And I was realizing as I was putting that podcast out, I was like, oh, Mom and Dad, shit. They're truck drivers, so they're listening to me while they're driving, and I'm like, well, hey, Mom.
They probably don't pay attention.
Oh, they do. Fun fact, they do. And they said they've learned more about me now in this podcast series than they've learned in a long time, and that's also terrifying. Sorry. So back to that. Yes. Sorry. Continue. Please continue.
What was I at? Where was I posted? Right.
Oh yeah. So where you posted and what that was like the first time you got posted out. And you wanted to be West. So you didn't end up going to Surrey. You said that was the best thing that ever happened to you. But
yeah, so basically what happened with me is I was what we call the right marker during my training at Depot Division, which is where the RCMP trains their members, right? And the right marker is kind of like the troop commander, right? Peer voted in, by your peers.
By your peers, yeah.
Yeah. And then the idea of managing the troop and managing the expectations of the training and everything is kind of falls onto you. And because there's an added responsibility, it's technically coming with a first pick of where you want to go when it comes to choosing a posting. So I was adamant that I was wanting to go to Surrey. Two or three of my facilitators knew exactly what my career path, what I wanted my career path to be.
So you spoke, you verbalized that at the beginning. Okay.
I did that to them. They were asking. Obviously, they knew I was joining to eventually be on Emergency Response Team or SWAT for the Americans listening, and that was the sole reason why I joined in the first place. That's all I wanted to do, and they knew that. And because they knew that, and because one of them was that. They felt that it wouldn't have been the best bangs for the buck in terms of getting what I needed to get there. So they were afraid that I would go to a big city where I would get no courses, no exposure.
Oh, just get swallowed up.
That's right. And I'd become, and not that our members are obviously numbers by any stretch of the imagination, but inherently, if you have 900 members in your detachment, you're less likely to get a course than if there's two of you or three of you.
Yeah.
And so what happened was he spearheaded sort of a decision to basically go against sending me where I wanted to go and send me where he felt I should go. And
career path.
Tofino detachment opened up.
Tofino?
Exactly.
I'm sorry?
Exactly.
So hold on. Back up. So for people that don't know, Surrey, let's just put a button note on what Surrey is. How would you describe Surrey? I'll let you do it to start because I feel like if I start, this thing's going to go off the fucking rails.
No, I mean, it's just like any other metropolitan, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's better. It's just a big city, and it's big city policing, and it has the big city realities.
They just got a police force, didn't they?
Well, they're
working on it?
They're working on that, yeah.
All I see are these keep the RCMP, and I tend to agree with that. I think we have a downfall when we start to segregate and separate information, and I think that's where a lot of things fall through the cracks, is when people start to compartmentalize and then people aren't communicating and talking with. And I feel like the RCMP have such a good hold on a lot of BC already, and I think that's what keeps it, from lack of a better word, going to a shit show. I think they do a really good job of it. I feel like the more you complicate that system, I feel like you're asking for it, and that scares me a little bit, to be honest. I mean, I don't know shit, but I'm going off of just the very little information I know about it. So please don't take what I say for like a grain of salt.
Excuse me. No, of course, you're absolutely right. But also, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at the totality of the circumstances, we have very, very dedicated members that are in there, giving their in and out for the last, however how many years, doing some excellent work out there. And the leadership there has been asking for numbers to be increased for, who knows how long.
More members?
Oh yeah, and I mean just in terms of budget and in terms of members and in terms of there were a lot of asks which are going to come down now. Look, we are going to get a new police force in here, but what we're going to do is we're going to give them all the stuff that the RCMP management has been asking for all those years, right? So then they will set them up for success. But
that's also offensive and a kick to the face.
Well, I'm going to take you out of a position because I don't believe you are capable and proficient at doing what you are being asked to do.
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the stuff that you've been asking for so that you could be proficient and
do your job properly
and give it to somebody else and then use that as a baseline. It's evidently very skewed, and it's a bit of a sore point.
I guess
I suppose, so. Right?
Well, that's I've gone into these conversations with people before. It's that not giving what is needed to do the job properly and to do it efficiently and effectively in order to prevent things from happening again. And when you constantly nickel and dime things or units and people, whether it's military or police or any of that, or you defund the police, you really truly don't know what the hell that means. Because once you start taking away these things from these people and you start taking away the finances that go to actually already minimally equipped our police force, you're looking at problems that people have they can't rationalize it because they've never seen it or they don't understand fully what it is. But the fact of the matter is they're still saying defund the police. They're still saying we're not going to give you everything you need to succeed. When you went to Tofino, though, what was that like versus what you would have got in Surrey then?
Well, being in small communities is very different. I mean, it has more. I think there was a fear that I may sort of turn a little bit jaded, or that I wasn't gonna have the community side of things because I already had the stuff for ERT as far as they were concerned.
Oh, because back then they still counted military a lot towards your induction, right, into the police force. Didn't that go towards it at all?
Well, it was peanuts for me because of my service and where it was, but they still do, yeah.
Okay.
Some level of indexation, I think they call it.
Okay.
But anyways, so they...
so they were worried you'd be jaded, and they didn't want that to happen.
So I think there was an understanding that, look, like, this guy has a good package to be where he wants to be, but if we send him in the wrong place... who knows what will happen to him, right? Like he could become jaded and not nearly as community oriented, because it's important to have that balance. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's, everything in balance. But if you're training your entire life to be this warrior, like tactical warrior, even in the policing world, and which the parameters are very different than in the military world, although there is some obvious crossovers and similarities. If you're that one-sided affair, good luck.
Yeah.
You don't want your warriors to not be compassionate. You don't want them to be exposed only to these things. You don't. So I think there was an understanding. Like, look, like he's pretty hardcore. Like, we'll send him to a place where he'll work relationships, where he'll have time to develop. We'll get more
and work on that compassion with that community base.
Not that cannot be done in a city. But by sheer volume alone and everything, it's just a little bit different. So I have more time to do that and work those relationships.
With Surrey, though, too, I can totally see why. I mean, they wouldn't want to ruin. There's very few people that make it into the ERT or SWAT team, and there's a reason for that. It's the same with CSOR and JTF or the SEALs or whatever it be for special forces related. But there's a reason why those people are successful in it, and that's why the dropout rate and the actual amount of people that get selected is so minimal. So I can totally understand the want to almost protect your career for them, because they see you as such a positive asset down the road for new members coming in, but also for just a team in general, just to give that boost up that's needed so much. So I totally respect that. I do wonder, though, if people, I hear this, that Surrey is not that bad, but if it's not that bad, is it just the sheer volume of people they have there the reason why that you think they didn't send you, or were they truly worried about you becoming like desensitized and a little hardened because of the community aspect and what's going on in that area? Can you talk about that at all?
Well, yeah, there's a little detail I kind of left out, but I also asked for the roughest area of Surrey, right? So I specifically asked for an area of Surrey that,
And what area is that, Seth? Come on.
It's called Wally.
Oh, Wally. Wait, let's side note on Wally for a second. Let's talk about something that just happened that I'm furious about. Are you ready, Seb? Here we go. About 4 years ago, I got a call from, let's just call it a construction firm in Vancouver saying, hey, we're going to put this really great new facility for vets. Okay, now I'm going to call the name of the charity because I really am not a fan of them, and they know that. Let's take the funds, redistribute them like they always do, but let's put it in a place where all modern veterans that are under the age of probably 65 walking into that area will have most likely an issue if they've deployed. Now, I'm not a racist person. I'm not a prejudiced. Well, I'm working on it. Working on that. I'm fully open in saying that because if you don't know Surrey, there are a high density of, I would say, Middle Eastern population. Is that the right way to say it?
I suppose. I don't know.
I don't know because there's other things I say. So I'm trying to work on this. So I'm trying to make sure I say it in like a polite way. There's just a larger population there, and there's also high drug overlap within that. And for a lot of the vets that have deployed, Afghanistan or Iraq has been the placement for them. And a lot of these places have a similar culture base in that vicinity. So the government thought it would be a great idea to build this state-of-the-art, amazing facility that's so desperately needed for veterans, first responders, veterans and RCMP members, because it's federal-based, to have a safe space. So let's stick it in the middle of the shittiest fucking place in British Columbia. The concepts, they brought me in to have this meeting. I told them why, like intellectually, without swearing in their face and losing their mind, but from a statistic standpoint, and they still put it there anyway. And I don't understand why.
Well, it's kind of interesting because with having the Middle Eastern population, you've had all these service people that had served overseas that are also been exposed to the other side of them being victimized and everything. So it's not like...
you've seen a mix. That's what I mean. When I say the culture, I'm saying there's going to be a trigger, whether it's a positive one or a negative one, and it doesn't matter what it was, whether it's negative or positive. The fact that it triggered the person and put them in that position where they're going to either have treatment or either going for family counseling, or they're going just for help or just to hang out with their buddies. The last thing I feel like we need to do is take that community and put more obstacles in their ways to their healing. Mm-hmm. So it's whether it's negative or positive, it's a trigger, I feel like, for a lot. And that's what got me. It wasn't that the population was there. It was the lack of concern of those people who were actually going to be using the facility, and maybe how that would make that community feel.
Yeah, see, my biggest issue with this is almost to put it in an area where it's almost like you're saying you're second rate, and it's not because the people that live there are second rate, but because we know it's a problematic area. Mm-hmm. We know we've been trying to clean it up for many years, and and this is not just the RCMP. This is absolutely everybody's trying to. And there's drug centers there, and there's all kinds of stuff. There's also crack shacks and all this good stuff. So what are we actually saying to our veterans here? Like, as far as I'm concerned, they're walking on water, and I mean, this is how I feel about people that deployed overseas. Mm-hmm. I just think that
you're putting things in front of them that are now going to be problematic. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's going to cause a rise in drug abuse in vets. I'm not saying it's going to cause a rise in anything, but I am saying let's be cautious of it. Mm-hmm. And before we spend millions of dollars on this state-of-the-art facility that's been needed for decades and we're finally getting, let's be conscious of where we put it. But because powers that be. So anyway, Wally. So you wanted Wally.
Yeah, it was probably financial, like, just to wrap this up.
Oh, for sure it was. Totally.
Oh, no, everything's... It'd be nice to have it in White Rock on the water.
Oh, fuck.
But, you know, it's 5,000 square foot.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. And the facility, and well, the only other thing, too, I got an issue with, I was hoping they weren't going to put alcohol in it. Mm-hmm. Just because I feel like that's another thing that we're just like, let's have a beer with our buddies. Let's suppress all of our shit. Let's not deal with it. And then let's go get in a vehicle and drive. Mm-hmm. Tell me where the logic is in that. I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes when I talk about this place because I'm like, the old school mentality just makes me want to smash my face off the table sometimes.
But it's tough because I think, you know, even in the research was with and I'm not a psychologist by any, but I obviously worked with teams.
You mean all the amazing things you've got in your life, the psychology is not on there? I feel like
it's not one of them. Not
failure.
Qualified.
You know what? Everything you've said just doesn't even matter anymore. You're an instant failure.
But where I was going with this is we know that having a beer with your people actually helps. Like that's just, it comes into the social piece. Yes. The problem is how do you reconcile that with a treatment?
Exactly.
Right? And is there not, and can we not be teaching our people this is actually what you are after when you are doing that.
Correct.
And this is an alternative way to do that, you know?
That's right.
Whether it's...
Teach a healthier option.
Sure, absolutely.
That's what I mean. I'm all for hanging out with my buddies and sitting down and having a drink and a conversation. For me now, it's switched from alcohol to cannabis because alcohol, I was fortunate I didn't have an issue. You know, I'm one of those lucky ones that didn't get that. But, you know, I also found that I excluded myself from hanging out with people because I didn't want to drink or you know what I mean? So I just kind of buried myself a little bit. And then once I switched over to cannabis and actually began using that with my treatment process, whole world of difference. Now I feel like I can sit with my buddies and have a conversation and it be I'm not going to have 6 beers and go, okay, now I got to drive. Like I just find it can be a healthier option. I think we just need to teach people and implement that. That's my hope for that. But so with Wally, though, what was your hope why did you want Wally so bad? Were you excited for the door kicking? What were you excited for that really just...
It's just the action, right? The policing action, like the patrol action is what I was after initially. I mean, I knew I had a certain amount of set time I needed to put in before I could even dream of going on a team, even though that was always on the back of my mind.
Okay.
And I was going to do everything along the way as best as I could, but I wanted it to be interesting.
Yeah,
right?
you didn't want to be bored.
Yeah.
Paper pusher.
Yeah,
things
exactly.
like that.
Like I am now, type deal.
Well, I mean, it's temporary. It's temporary.
Sure.
But when you finally got that posting to Tofino, though, was that... to be honest, I'm surprised you came back from that because Tofino just feels like that's the dream posting for most people. That and the Sunshine Coast being by the ocean and having a quieter community. So what made you want to leave there?
Well, a few things. I mean, what it looks like and what it actually is are two very different things.
Ooh,
right?
Tell me.
Yeah. So at the time, we only had 5 members there. We had 2,000 or 2,500 people living there, sort of off season, because it's a tourist destination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And it's very, very busy in the summer. So we have 50,000 people daily in the summer to 2,000 in the winter, right? So the winter, it was dead.
Yes.
But in the but literally you would be catching up with your summer because we were so swamped.
Just the paperwork and the amount of things that you had to do.
And the on-call and everything. It was like constantly on call, getting called out 6, 7, 8 times a night sometimes. Like
what type of offenses are you looking at there?
Well, lots and lots of domestics, especially in the winter time.
Okay.
Lots of domestic, lots of sex assault and
in Tofino.
Yeah, lots. Yeah.
And this is on the off season.
That is correct. Yeah.
Did that bleed at all into Ucluelet? Like, or is that just?
They're a very different community, actually. It's Tofino was really transient based.
Okay.
A lot of people coming from the outside. A lot of people that don't want to be found. A lot of people that and
I am learning so much right now. And
Ucluelet was actually more of a blue collar type town where everybody has been there forever. They have
really
generations. So they're two different microcosms and they're very different. And I had obviously by virtue of not having any backups on any other sides, we backed each other up on calls, right? So
so there's a separate posting obviously to there. So and it's
correct.
not that far.
It's not. It's 40 minutes.
Depending on that windy road. Oh my God, that thing is sketchy. I've only driven it once, and
we got really good at driving it.
I was just gonna say, because it's like literally you go 30 around it if you don't want to die. I'm sure you guys were just drifting around that thing in the snow. Yeah. Oh my God, nightmares.
I have a funny story. I had a sergeant follow. He was actually was a corporal at the time, and he gets posted to Tofino, and he doesn't know anything about the place. Really good guy. Anyway, he's following me on this call, and it's a hot call. Like the member is basically by themselves, and this is going
in distress
sideways. So I'm driving a 4x4 Explorer or something, and we get to the call, we deal with everything, and then he takes me aside and he's like, all I want to know is how you kept that thing on the road.
Oh no.
He's like,
were you just pinned or what?
No, but it was control. But for him, not knowing the road and
because
I anticipate the corners and everything. He doesn't. He has to.
You have to follow behind. Right? Yeah, well, that road, if people don't know, my God, that road is winding, and I don't know how.
It's better now. I mean,
is it?
Yeah, they.
I haven't been there in probably 5 years. I know we live right here.
So nice there.
Oh now. God, so I need to go on.
No, it's so nice there now. It's you can't even compare.
Really?
Oh, it's not even the same galaxy. They have like these super trendy little like coffee shops and all like.
What?
Actually,
you've been there recently?
Your shop like this year looks a lot like a lot of the stuff that's there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why the hell aren't you carrying it then? Stores out there. There's a few of you who know who you are. God, I've had it. No, I think Tofino, Habit the store, Habit. I know you need. I've been telling you. You've heard it from the horse's mouth. He lived there. Yeah. He should be. You see, I know.
It was amazing.
Tofino's one of those spots that has that air of just peacefulness and calm. So when I'm hearing you talk about this transient type and these sexual assaults and these. I'm a little bit, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little taken back, I'm a little shocked because I don't think that's the perception Tofino gives off to the public.
But there's added communities around, right? We go by boat and islands.
Oh, so you're responsible for going.
Communities, as well, yeah.
So there is a large Indigenous, okay, so that makes a little more sense because that's when you've got a little bit of, alcohol abuse issue, if I'm not wrong.
Well, I mean,
everything.
There is alcohol abuse everywhere in Tofino.
Yes.
But yeah, it is one of the realities.
The communities are plagued.
So they're.
That's like that though all across Canada for the Indigenous population, is it not?
I couldn't tell.
Well, I grew up beside a reserve, and I knew it was a massive issue on that one. Just the lack of support and help for the Indigenous communities in Canada is tantamount to like one of the most disgusting things. You don't want people to work when you want to just shove them onto a reserve and leave them to fend for themselves. It's disgusting.
Historically it hasn't been stellar at all, and there's a ton of work that needs to be done. And what's interesting is everybody focuses on police, which is the pointy end.
Yeah, the spear.
Like where's all the rest of this stuff prior? To
where's the responsibility
to help these communities and the sky is blue today. Well, it must be the RCMP's fault. Well, actually, it isn't. And I just I just get it's frustrating. I mean, I've experienced it myself, even with the kids, because I was obviously look at me. I'm.
Yeah, you don't look if people aren't. Let's do an analysis for people that are just listening.
Oh dear.
You look like a mini rock with or like a smaller rock with like a mustache from what's that, the cartoon? Oh, for God's sake, he's got the hat. Oh my God, he's a Southern character. He's in like, oh, guys, help me out.
Not Yosemite Sam.
Yes!
Yosemite
yes, with the mustache. Because you got to understand something. People don't know this. In the military, you can have a mustache, but it has to be like very particular, and yours is very particular, just like in the forces. So it's a
Sergeant Major mustache.
It's the best.
Standard issue.
It's standard issue. Literally, if you cannot grow one, you can never get to the rank of Sergeant Major, and that is just how it is for you. So just get over yourselves. It's like women getting to Sergeant Major. Good luck.
Exactly.
Good luck. How are you going to grow that mustache?
Look, if you're willing to glue one on, you're good to go.
I'll glue that shit on. I'd run that. I would walk in the day. So if I ever got to that rank of Sergeant Major and I walked in, you can bet your ass I would walk in. I would have glued one to my face, but I'd act like nothing even happened. You just pretend like it's not there, and you just leave it on, and you run it for a week. week and just watch people's reaction, because not one person will say anything.
They won't.
Because you'll get your ass me too'd. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be hilarious. Anyway, I would appreciate that.
Now let's talk about this.
Let's talk about it. Can we talk about it?
Like, somebody didn't think when they put that together.
Oh no, they didn't. The hashtag Me Too thing. I don't. Oh, that's a thing. That's a whole. I feel like there was just no effort put into the thought process of the actual names. They really hooped themselves on that, and that.
Rather that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get back into Tofino a little bit, because, like I said, it's got that air of calm, and
it does ultimately. You know. But it is busy for the members there. It's busy because there is no 24/7 coverage, so there's a lot of on-call periods. There's a lot of people knocking on your door because you live there and you have your police car, and you know. And
so they'll just come to your house.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that happens several
sketchy.
times. Yeah, it is totally sketchy, especially you know, based on some of the clients we were dealing with at the time. But yeah, it really consumes your life. So you kind of fail to see the beauty. You see the beauty
around
of the place, like, you know, physically. I mean, you know, oh, this is nice. And,
you're driving. It's gorgeous.
But when I go back now and I go for a run on the beach or something like that, I'm like, this was my first posting. I want to die here.
Yes, you know, like, I know that feeling.
It's completely different. It's taken it to a different level.
It ruined it for you?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. It didn't ruin it for me, but I just at the time wasn't appreciating it the way I should have.
Fair enough, but I don't know that you can, I would say, be disappointed in yourself for that, because I think if you were truly looking at it the way you should be, you shouldn't be noticing all of that, because when you're a police officer, you're not. The sunset is beautiful. It's the sky's moving to my left, and I hear somebody back here, and where's my, like, you're never paying attention to that. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself for that. That makes total sense. Everybody wishes they could go back and appreciate, you know. So that's not something I would worry too much about. You'll get to go visit all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely not worried. But it's just, you know, if I was to go back and speak to my younger self, there was a way for me to appreciate it more. There was a way for me to realize what I had, and that was to know the things that I know now.
Fair enough.
Right? So it's never going to happen because it's impossible. But if I could, I would love to go back and say, one day you'll be in a concrete jungle. You'll be looking at this. You'll be doing this, doing that.
Yeah.
And all good stuff.
But remember the ocean.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. I love it. I love going there.
Do you surf?
No.
Really?
I tried a few times, and you know, I essentially almost died the first time.
So what you're saying is you've been skipping leg day, only doing arms.
I can actually swim.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I'm one of those.
You're one of those weird ones. You're one of those weird, like, military cops, like, has the roundabout. Why didn't you go join the special forces, like? What was that?
Well, there's kind of an interesting story with that, but when I released from the military, at the time, there was very, very little was known. This is pre-9/11.
Okay,
so very little. Of course, CanSoft didn't have nearly what, you know, the setup that they have now, and it was so secretive that the majority of the guys doing this stuff didn't even know what they were doing. So
yeah, the JTF was very hush hush.
Very, very, very secretive, and so we ultimately, especially even though there's a lot of French Canadian in that unit, ton. I couldn't believe how many there are, but we didn't hear as a French unit. We didn't really hear what they did, or, you know, even.
So you had no interest.
I did. So. It was discussed, and one of my superior was a captain at the time, had written a letter of recommendation for a selection, which of course means nothing. It just it means that you did what you had to do.
Yeah, to an extent, but it also shows that you have that mentality, you have that mental fortitude, but you also have that leadership skill, and so I would take that as a small compliment.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, I worked hard, every day, and it paid off. I got this kind of attaboy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and this is kind of the dichotomy here, is I joined the military to become a cop, and when I joined the military, I loved it. I didn't want to leave.
Oh no.
You know, but then I knew what the mission was. So now I was set on a course, and all these things happened, and I was like, okay, am I going to just let go of what I always wanted, or am I going to go that route, and if it doesn't work out the way I want it, I can always fall back on the military? That seems more like a smarter plan.
For you.
Versus if I miss the window of opportunity to get into policing, I may be here, and if I don't like it, then, or I would have liked it, but if I don't end up where I want to be.
Absolutely.
So anyways, so I get this letter of recommendation. I get my orders for depot. Basically, this is a month later type deal.
Oh, wow. So you really had like both.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so selection or heading out for selection or attempting that or going in, pursuing the dream that I'd set my sights on, right?
I'm just so shocked. I'm not gonna lie, because you just seem like I could have seen you going the military path so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, do you have police family?
No.
So what really made you want to?
So for me, and I've spoken about this event before, but it's pretty innocuous. But for me, it was a big contributor to why I decided to go into policing. Biker wars between the Rock Machine, the Hells Angels in Quebec, for those that don't know, was an absolute war zone. And when I say an absolute war zone, bikers were wanting to shoot each other with rocket launchers and club lineups. Like we are talking
collateral damage,
heavy artillery. We're talking IEDs and vehicle borns and all kinds of stuff that you would see overseas, and that's what they did to each other. And of course, the Montreal chapter of the Hells Angels was the most dangerous in the world by a long shot. And Sonny Barger himself said, "I want nothing to do with these guys." The Nomad chapter,
just too ruthless.
They just, when I came here and people were like, "Those are bikers," I was like, "Really?"
Yeah, these guys are not.
Yeah, they're rich and they live in opulence and all this stuff. Like, they don't touch police because they know it's bad for business.
Well, they know.
Exactly. In Quebec, no. Beat down roadside on a car.
Really?
Over all the time.
This is the 90s?
Yeah, in the 90s. So what ended up happening with that was Mom was very with it, and she paid attention, and she was like, listen, like, these cops, it's really hard because they are being hit on, they're being hurt, their families are...
Yeah, they're at risk.
These guys are not playing by and they will essentially hurt him bad. So one day we're coming back from a field trip in a school bus, I think we were, and we saw Wolverine, which was a very aggressive anti-biker unit in Quebec, and they were really good investigationally, but also they had associated tactical arm, which was the Wolverine sort of. They didn't call it SWAT, but they had their Wolverine anyway, they called it something else in French. But and so those guys were all standing over, I don't know, 10 or 15 bikers on the ground, handcuffed, and they had balaclavas on, they had their long guns on, and they weren't like yelling or posturing or doing anything. They were standing guard, quiet, professional, 360, 360,
on the swivel.
And they were solid, and I saw that, and I was like, holy, who are these guys? And Mom's like, those are the cops that aren't scared.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
She said, those are the ones that aren't scared. I'm like, I want to be one of those. She's like, well, you go ahead.
How old were you when she said that?
I couldn't tell you. Probably
young.
Yes, I have a very
like blurred recollection.
Yes, anything below sort of 12 is like very dark.
Really?
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons for that, but yeah, it's anyways. So my timelines are always messed up and Mom used to make fun of me about that all the time. She's like, that didn't happen when you were 6, you were 3,
Yeah, but hey, it's the trauma really.
7 to 9, I would say.
Really?
7 to 9, yeah.
Wow. And that stuck with you. That's one of those moments. But you talk about it like it's, you've talked about it before, but like there's always you can always look, when you're able to look back, you can find the catalyst point for you.
Sure.
And then if that right there, if your mom never said that, you may never have.
100%.
That's so beautiful though, that she was able to be that strength for you and show you that you could still be that person. But she also sounds like she guided you on a really good pathway within that.
Yeah, she did. She was a single mom. She had me when she was 15.
Oh, okay.
We are really close, and she passed away in 2009.
I'm sorry.
Super quick cancer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's life. But yeah, you're right. Like it would have been easy for her to say, "Oh, that's dangerous," and I don't want my son
to do that.
But she's like, "Well, if other people are sacrificing, why wouldn't you? And why wouldn't I allow you to do it? How selfish is that? These people have families too, and that was her take on the whole sacrifice service thing, right?
Yeah. So Did you have any siblings?
I do, yeah. 2 sisters.
2 sisters, same age, older, younger?
No, my sisters are younger. This is bad, but I haven't seen one of my sisters. I haven't seen in since Mom passed. So
yeah, it's been 11 years.
Yeah, and then my sister lives on the island. She's 36, I want to say.
Okay.
So she's younger than me, quite a bit. But
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So your mom really
They're both younger than me.
Yeah, so that your mom really had a rough go then.
Yeah, she had a solid go. Yeah. Yeah.
That's I always applaud moms like that. It's one thing to be a single mom. It's one thing to have a child in your teenage years. I know one of those as well. But those kids always seem to turn out the best. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, had her son very young, and he is one of the most respectful, well-rounded human beings, the most kind and generous. And the rest of her kids are like that too. When she had those, when she was, of adult age to have children. So
and what adds to the sort of the mystique surrounding this, and what adds to the beauty of it is, I don't know if do you listen to Jordan Peterson at all?
Oh my God, Jordan! Yeah. I want to have him on so bad.
Sure. So Jordan Peterson was speaking, and something that really resonated with me had to do with the risk that is incurred by kids that don't have their dads around, right?
It's dramatic.
And he's like, if you want to ruin a kid, take their dad away. Like that is, a number one contributor. Absolutely. So for having been successful, and for her to manage to keep the 3 of us on the path. Yeah. It's beyond.
That's incredible. I think that's what obviously created the human being in which you are, and it seems like she showed you early on what it meant to be a leader in the family. And I know for you, when it comes to, yes, you have your military service, yes, you have your policing, and then I'll get into that later, but you really truly are trying to be not only a leader in your community, but a leader in pretty much all of service and what you and how you live. And I want to talk to you about that, because it seems like the way you have obviously been raised has been the reason that you are the leader you are today. And I want to know really how that has had an impact on you, but how you feel like you've been able to take that position and really run with it.
Mm-hmm. In which position?
As a leader in your community, and then the pillars within your, the police department, and being a team leader and all of that.
Sure. I think there were always a natural leadership ability, some charisma, not an incredible amount of it, but like some charisma, and I always, from a very, very young age, even though I was sometimes misguided, would have the ability to get people to want to be around, or want to be with me, or want to follow, right?
Yep.
And that was something that worried some of the teachers that I had, because of some of my earlier behaviors. Or he's got so much influence, and if he's not using it right, it's not good.
Yeah.
But I do think ultimately what it comes down to is I had a very good balance of that conscientiousness and emotional intelligence, right? And so all the things that comes along with it, the self-regulation, the self-awareness, the empathy, the drive, the determination, all those things in proper amount. And it allowed me to not only lead people, but care in leading people, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't lead asset, I don't lead numbers, I lead people. Correct. And I don't always do the things that they would want me to do as a leader, because sometimes there are certain things that are difficult decisions that have to be made.
Correct.
But I can guarantee you that it's as much buy-in as you are going to get from anybody with that decision, because I don't obviously make them in a vacuum, do any of that. But if you prioritize people over anything else, and I know some people will be like, oh, well, actually it's the mission first. Like we understand, we look, prioritize your people, and no matter how difficult the mission is going to be, they are going to work for you.
Exactly.
So
yep. I respect that. I can respect that. When you have the guys that you're working with and that you're leading, for example, how is it that you guys handle, say, after action when there's an issue? What is that like for you? Like, how do you kind of take that on?
So we're talking about the emergency response team now. Like, we're back to,
yeah.
Okay, so tactical operations. So you're talking about critical incident
Correct.
follow-up.
See, you know all the cool words. I just lead you to it.
No, it's good. No, it's perfect. But it depends. I mean, from a tactical standpoint, and from a then we have our regular debriefings, which are like what have we done and what could we have done better and what worked well and what didn't, and who's taking ownership of what and who, who fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it comes down to.
It's interesting though. You set that bar for yourself as an accountable leader, and you just watch your people fight over who's responsible in the terms that they are actually trying to take the blame, and it's like, wait a minute, you had nothing to do with this. You weren't even there. You're off that day.
Yeah, you literally weren't working. What are you talking about?
But it's amazing the accountability and ownership that you can develop when you're implementing that for yourself. But from a tactical standpoint, we had our after action, which is our regular debriefs and all this good stuff. And then on the emotional side, it just carries over. So this is an interesting balance, because we're looking at the spiritual, the social, the physical, and the mental work that we put in our people, so that they can develop in those areas which are consistent with the 4 pillars of resilience, right? With that, it flows right into recovery, which are the same 4 pillars, right? So what we know about people is you take a cup and you put water in it, and every little thing that you add in there and it doesn't have to be a big thing. And everybody always thinks, like all these police calls, and I've seen bodies everywhere and all this stuff. It doesn't need to be that way.
No.
It just needs to be a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit of an administrative stress, a little bit of undue hardship, a little bit of that person that's being an ass in the office, a little bit of this. And next thing you know, you send them to something and it hits them hard, and likely much harder than it should have. So my take on this was always keep the cup as empty as possible, so that when they get hit with something substantial, we can work on that recovery plan, which is the reiteration of the things that should have been preemptively taken care of that we just spoke about, and then as leaders enable them to continue on with that. And then one of the things that people don't understand is when it comes to the subconscious mind, it doesn't have a concept of time. So it's really hard, and that's the reason why hypnosis, people go back and it's like, okay, it's 5-year-old you.
Yeah, you can go there. Like some people can actually are susceptible to hypnosis. Some are not.
Of course. So the using the hypnosis as a reference is simply to say, if it caused an emotional scar, it doesn't matter if it was 50 or 5 minutes ago.
Correct.
It doesn't.
So
but for the people looking, it does. For people around, for the onlookers, it's like, oh well, it's been that many years. Like, you should be over this.
Oh, I get that all the time. That's people's favorite.
Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Frank. It still fucking sucks, Frank. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why when people are going through personal critical incidents, divorce and breakups and those types of things. And if you've never been through a divorce, you have no idea what a critical incident is.
No, I'm one of those very weird, happily married people in the world, still during COVID. I know it makes no sense. I don't know, he puts up with me, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But divorce is, and that's the empathy part, right?
Correct.
Having the ability to recognize, even if if you cannot relate to it because it's never happened to you, it's like, let me research this. Like, this is how difficult this can be. So as a leader, and this is the beauty of it, say if you don't have the natural tendency towards emotional intelligence, I will say that's not good news. But if you have, some of those areas can be worked on, and they can.
Correct.
So all you need is self-awareness. If you don't have that, then you don't work on anything because you think you're
perfect.
Good to go.
Yeah.
So one of the, if we look at empathy, for example, well, if you're not like a very empathetic person for whatever reason, you're a
narcissist or whatever.
Well, it doesn't necessarily make you bad, but you definitely need that. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do the research on how this is affecting your people, right? Whether you're talking to them, whether you're looking into psychological literature or whatever, like how does divorce, say, for example, affects your people? So that way, when that happens, you're not like, hey man, I noticed that you're not like what you used to be. I want you on the road, taking rain, kicking ass. Instead of, hey man, you know what? I've never been through a divorce myself, but I looked into it. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
What can I do to help? Those kinds of things. So I kind of went on a tangent here.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, but the tangent all day long. And I think it's important though, because when you explain it the way you just explained it, you're not just saying you need to be empathetic with your team, and you're not just saying that you need to be open and communicative with your team. You need to be truly, what's the word? You need to be literally the bubble that is around the team and know how to handle if that bubble pops. And there's a difference between a team leader saying, hey, I'm here for you, and a team leader saying, hey, I don't know what you've been through, but I took the time out of my day or whatever to figure out or do some research, see what it could be affecting you like, and maybe this is why you're acting this way. And and that there shows more compassion to a team than anything else. And I would say you only truly need one of those situations to happen to really see whether you have a leader or not. Because the reaction will be two completely different people. And I want you to go on tangents about this, because I think it's important for people to understand that there is a way to handle things from a logistical standpoint. Like you said, after action reports, who fucked up, how do we fix this so it doesn't happen again? But then there's also a way to handle the mental health aspect. And I do want to know what you think of how we handle or pick our RCMP or police officers, and how we look at, previous incidents, because I feel like that's got to have some play into what they're going to be like as police officers down the road. Am I wrong?
You mean previous incidents, like you say exposure to
Correct.
critical incident type deal?
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very slippery slope, personally. And the reason why that is what are we telling our veterans?
Correct.
What are we telling the people that have had horrible things happen in life? Like, excuse me, we can't take the risk on you because you may experience some level of distress.
Yeah.
How do you begin to have that conversation? So I think what needs to happen is, you don't want them to be in distress when they come in. That's absolutely guaranteed. But there are ways to guide people and help them deal with
and
certain
mitigate
issues.
all of that,
and they can come back 10 times stronger from having had a really bad experience that
For
they couldn't deal before. I think that's a very, very slippery slope. And it's been done some, I know for a fact it's been done somewhere in Canada on one of the RCMP teams, some commander. If I knew his name, I would throw it out there, because evidently should have never been a commander. But
fantastic.
But there was, essentially what happened was a lot of the guys on the team had been in multiple shootings. So he came in, and basically what he said is, systematically, anybody who's been over 3 shootings on the team is off the team.
No.
Like, do you want to create occupational stress injury? Because that's how you do it.
That's exactly how you do it. And I think that's what people forget, is it's not necessarily the incident that happened. It's when you harp on someone and you make them feel shitty for not getting over it, and you constantly beat them down and ask them, why aren't you better yet? Why aren't you better yet? Oh, you've had more than this? Well, you can't be involved anymore.
That's correct. And you're taking away their purpose.
And when you do that, you are flipping their whole world upside down.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's, I think what needs to happen, though, just to address this, is we kind of need to have a plan on, there has to be a line. Like, if somebody has had some very serious PTSD related or OSI related issues, like such as serious suicide attempts or these types of things, you are literally going to kill them if you send them in policing.
Oh yeah, it'll break them completely.
Like, it is what it is. But if there's any way to steer them and have them in and bring that experience over, one of the reasons why this is a stigma, even though it's getting more and more, it's getting better. I know in the RCMP it is getting a lot better. Not having the people that can relate the experiences is always been an issue in the past, because they would get, obviously, you're welcome to tell us what you think, but we may make fun of you, or we may
tell us what happened to you, but we're still going to make you feel like shit about it,
or think that ultimately this wouldn't have happened to me. And this is the most arrogant way to approach OSI, or occupational stress injuries, right? And it gets your blood boiling,
because it happened to me. Word for word. That's why when I hear you say it, I'm like,
I know. It is. Sometimes people, when I was young, I always had this fantasy where I would take a well-equipped, well-trained team, travel back in time with proper artillery, and help the people that couldn't help themselves, that got slaughtered and decimated and
yeah.
preyed upon and do all those things. I had this dream, like, let's, if this is ever possible, let's do that so we can fix the wrongs. Now I would do the same with some of the stuff that people are being told by some leaders, or I would go back, slap them, tell them the right thing, and Well,
you and I talked about that when we first spoke on the phone. We chatted about that, and let's touch base on that, because I think this is where there are pitfalls and downfalls, and not even just in the in the police department. There are ways that we handle things that are obviously incorrect, but there's we handle them wrong in the military too. So let's touch on vakiatse. Let's get into that and the way that they handle mental health and the way that they don't. You were a Vandu. Yeah,
that is correct. So I wasn't at Valcartier aside from full-time training, and so I spent a great deal of time there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there regular.
Yeah, and we spoke briefly kind of about some of my the 5 RALC staff that I had, and the majors and the warrant officers and all the lovely humans there, and that mentality. And it was funny to me to actually hear your response on the phone, because you seemed angry, and you were probably 1 out of 5 French Canadian people who had actually served in the military, who knew the culture, who actually were angry on my behalf. What I found interesting was the leadership that is in place, that we leave in place, whether it's in the police department or in the military, they get left too long. And then they keep that old school mentality, and then that lack of leadership rolls downhill. And then the newer people coming in, you start to see that implementation of shitty behavior and just saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, that kind of thing. I wonder, would it ever be beneficial for you to leave the police force and go and strictly work with the military on bettering leadership? Like, I feel like, I know you love your job, but I feel like your skills could be utilized in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think there would be value in this, but there are professional companies that do that with.
They fucking suck, obviously.
Well, but the problem is, herein lies the problem, right? If you're, and I always tell people this, if you're in a leadership course, or if you're asking for leadership advice, you're already not as bad a leader as you think you are.
Fair enough.
Because the really, truly bad leaders, they don't even ask. They don't even want to know, actually.
No, because then they're going to be told they're doing something wrong, and they're not
going to like that. That's impossible, though.
Yeah.
That's impossible. It's so you have that, the levels of competence.
Absolutely.
When you're in that unconscious incompetence, I think a lot of the times those bad leaders are consciously incompetent. They have other things that overcome, an ego being one of them, generally.
Yeah.
That's generally what it is. There is so much wrong with the leadership models, and the CAF actually did it better than the RCMP did.
Really?
Yeah, because we were giving them an exam and all this stuff, but there was no training. There was no training
when you came in
leadership. Yeah, so it's getting better now. But I mean, you can be a corporal on the road and you've demonstrated leadership, maybe. But if you haven't, there's a lot of stuff you're not going to learn until you're actually in the chair. So you'll get your promotion, and then you'll either make or break, right?
Really?
Yeah.
That's a shitty way to set somebody up.
This is setting our people for failure. Most of them are well intended.
Of course.
And they want to do a good job. And we're, so now there's a wind of change. I think now there is more available in terms of leadership resources than there ever been.
Oh, for sure.
You look at the Jocko Willink and the and all these guys that have major media platform. The social media is amplifying that piece.
Oh my gosh, is it ever?
It's everywhere. Books are flying off the shelves.
It's made it accessible.
Oh, it's and I can tell you from my perspective, the amount of constables that are coming to me and say, "Man, I share your values. Like, look at what I've done for," and I'm like, it looks so bright for the future.
That's so good.
Of these organizations, because these kids, they're out there getting better at leading.
Well, they want to. They see that there's a not only a maybe financial incentive in your rank and becoming a leader, but there's also that being a better person, being that person that somebody they know they can turn to and have watching their back and knowing that they're actually the person that they strive to be. They strive to wake up every morning and be a better person, be a better leader, rather than just waking up, putting the uniform on and hoping nobody gets shot that day. Because there's plenty of police officers out there like that, and that's totally okay. If that's your jam, that's all you. But if I believe in striving for better every day that you wake up and every minute that you wake up, and I think that's what you teach and that's what you try to implement. I wonder, you said to me, I don't know if you can talk about it, you said that you were going back in. What's the deal here?
It is a possibility. So I'm supported too.
Okay.
Going back on the emergency response team.
Wow.
In one of the positions that recently just came open. I mean, something could always happen that nips that in the bud. But in the meantime, it's looking like that's going to happen imminently, probably mid-February if everything goes according to plan. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's it'll be interesting. I mean, I bumped a few and then I came back.
Yeah.
I came back evidently when I left in really good terms and had some, that was gonna be awkward because there's a lot of people in my farewell and everything, and I'm back. But
it's okay. we all come back. You just come back 10 times better. Just like I'm the improved version. That party was for that person.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm truly a different person. So I'm the same person that I was. I didn't take anything away because I didn't have any real bad things to shed.
Fair.
But I'm certainly much more aware. I've seen a much broader picture. So those things are going to be valuable in this position. They're going to be valuable. I've also built tons of relationships and everything, which I always tend to do. I did when I was a team leader. But I think there's going to be a ton of value. The team has evolved. Like, I've been gone for 2 years now. Yeah. And the team has evolved. So I'm going to have some. Have some catching up to do when I get in. Just in terms of like the way they've been running their business, how they've been doing things. Yeah. So it'll be a major learning curve there. There's some hands and feet skills that I stayed away from.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Well, I mean, I didn't go to the range. I mean, I don't even need my gun in my current position.
So do you I was just going to ask you that too while you were talking about that, because like you said, there's some steps you're going to have to get back into. Do you shoot? Do you practice? Do you hunt? What's up with you?
So I did, obviously, to lead up to the team, and then I spent like 12, 13 years on the team.
Just full on. You had no time?
No. I mean, I was shooting.
Oh, but
while I was on the team. But
you were shooting, but you weren't shooting, I'm saying, for fun. You didn't go to the range for fun.
This is kind of like infantry life is taking camping away from you.
Yes.
Earth life is taking shooting away from me.
It just ruins you.
So I do it professionally.
Yeah.
By necessity, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
But I haven't really done it because my position is purely administrative. I went to the range like 2 weeks ago or something because I'm training a kid right now for the military.
Oh, really?
He is absolutely insane. Yeah, I think
sniper, huh?
It just not firearms. It just the whole package. Like this kid is just.
He's gonna rise.
Anyways,
that's amazing.
I got plans for him.
Oh, I see. I love that. I love that so much because to hear your excitement in somebody that could be a carbon copy of what we need to print those guys out and to put them in those positions, but also have like the ability to put them in those positions.
I got a funny story about this kid.
Tell me. Can you tell me?
So. Yeah, I can actually. So he touched me up on Instagram because my open Instagram account, everything.
Yeah, you've got a flippin' amazing Instagram account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
People have reached out, and I will help anybody. Like I've done it over and over and over, and I even cut and paste sometimes some of the programs I put on because I'm like, okay, this is too much work, but I have to do it, and then I let them know. I let them know that. But so anyway, so this kid touches me up, and it was the weirdest thing. There was all kinds of nebulous circumstances. He was asking some questions, and I recognized his last name and all this stuff, and eventually I go, hey man, do you have like somebody in your family that's in the force? He goes, yeah, my uncle, and I know him very well.
Oh my gosh.
We have a good relationship, and I'm like, hey man, you want to talk about policing, you want to talk about all this, let's meet up. Do you have a weight vest? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. meanwhile, he thinks I'm somewhere in Ontario. He has no idea. He lives in Maple Ridge. I'm in Coquitlam.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, you're such a dick.
So he comes over.
Oh, he just popped right over.
He comes over and he's like, I didn't know what to bring, so I brought 100, I brought 70. So I'm like, I like you already.
You're the best. You've got options.
I like you already. Like, you brought a 100-pound vest. Who the hell does that?
Yeah, nobody.
Ask anybody to bring a weight vest and they'll come in with a 20-pound.
If you're lucky.
It's a T-shirt, essentially. It's just you let the water in. It just didn't dry it, and that's what it is. But anyways, so him and I go for. I was doing a 9 Megan, the 9 Megan March, which is I was preparing for the 9 Megan. Do you know what that is in Holland? There,
I know what it is, but you can explain for our listeners.
Yeah, it's basically a march that's been put on, I think, for 105 years in Holland for the liberation of Holland during World War II, and it was initially used as a test for the operational readiness of their troops.
Yep.
And it eventually sort of evolved into this big giant, everybody all the countries are putting a team in. And
that's so cool.
And it's, 440 kilometers, something like that. So it's 160 kilometers over 4 days with rucksack and, boots and
the whole fun kit.
The stuff that takes your feet away. But I was training for 9 Megan because I'd been selected.
It's because you're the Rock.
I'd been
selected. For Canadian version of the Rock.
Look, there's 2 or 3 selectee in the RCMP, and I was one of them. And I was. They literally said you need to send they send me this list of stuff I needed to send in. Like within 7 minutes, they had everything, including my CV.
You're ready to go.
You are not changing your mind.
No.
So anyway, this kid comes over. We go for a long extended march together, and we're talking, and he's telling me about himself, and he's like, I dabbled in jiu-jitsu because I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So he's like, I dabbled in jiu-jitsu, all this stuff. And then he was telling me stories, and I was like, how much did you actually dabble in jiu-jitsu? He's like, well, I've done it for 7 years.
Okay, so you didn't dabble.
He's 21. He's done it for 7 years. So he was a kid growing up, and then turns out he was a national level wrestler. He's a Golden Glove boxer. Those are corroborated facts. Like we have friends in common that are MMA trainers and coaches, and
that's
they're like,
insane.
he's a gem. So anyway, I take him on as a trainee, and I'm like, you are not going into policing, pal.
You think it's going to ruin him?
You are not. No. I have bigger plans.
Oh, you're going further. Yeah.
So he's like, good enough. I'm single and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Tell me how we get that done, type deal. So we're going this run, and he says to me, Seb, have you ever had this where you're running with people, say on a 10 or a 15K, and I look around and I feel like I should be tired, but I'm not, and I don't know if I should, like, is it bad to kind of push past? And God. And I'm like, no, actually, I've never felt that way during a 15K.
I'm sorry, you fucking psychopath. At 15K, I'm going, I don't need to push past.
So legitimately,
this guy's gnarly.
He comes over to my gym and he's like, what's a muscle up? I show him and he does one.
Instantly.
Yeah, he's just the whole package.
He's got it.
Take him on the range. His mechanics are looking beautiful from what you've seen on the internet. It's just he's the whole package. Yeah. So he'll go places. Anyway, enough on that. But
I want to talk to this kid at some point when I'm allowed. It can be without camera. It can be all audio. But I'd love to talk to this kid. It sounds like he's got quite a full package. And when you meet those people, my God, they're few and far between. Like
totally.
When you meet somebody that well rounded.
He's a stud, and the humility in him and all is just completely insane.
Doesn't even need to be taught. It already sounds like it just kind of comes together.
He's so humble, like just.
And he's just a kid.
A grinder.
Yeah, really? Does grinder. He, a quick random question, does he come from a mom and dad? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a good family. He comes from a good family.
Beautiful.
Hardworking people.
Maybe I brought that up to make a point like you were talking about before. It's like having that dad figure, and then it goes back to what Jordan Peterson talks about, accountability and things like that. And I know you do a lot around your leadership, but I really want you to kind of touch on, why you do what you do, because I think people are going to be listening and like, everybody wants to be, this social media leader. Everybody wants to be this, this big person that, pay attention to me. I say the right things. I do the right things. But it feels like to me, just from the very limited interaction and the people that we know in common, you're the real deal. Why do you feel like you need to be doing like this work? It feels like you take it personally more than I've ever heard a lot of people.
Yeah. For me, it culminated, in this package when I was appointed as the Divisional Sergeant Major here for British Columbia. So just for the sake of sort of comparing the two, I was a team leader on a full-time SWAT team with 24 guys working for me, and I moved on to oversight of 8,200 employees.
That's too many people.
Right? No, it is. You have your sphere of influence.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so you're not responsible for 8,200 people.
Okay.
You are ultimately responsible for 8,200 people because you're setting the tone, and that tone goes down, and it goes down, and it goes down all the way to the bottom. Right? Not that the bottom is the bottom.
I know what you're talking about. It rolls downhill, though. Yeah.
And so one of the things, I felt like an imposter. Okay, I got a couple bumps. The commanding officer came to me and says, "I believe you can do things good for the membership here and for management as well, bridging that gap, having that conduit kind of role." And I put those rings on my shoulders the first time, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, "You're a fraud."
Why would you say that?
Because you're not allowed to have ranks on your shoulders if you are not contributing and leading something. You have to lead. Like, you can't look at yourself and be like, "Oh, well, those are pretty nice. I don't know what I'm doing." No. Okay, so you don't know what you're doing. Good. That's the first sign that you're doing it right. You don't know what you're doing. You can acknowledge it, so then you can work on making this better. How am I going to get better? So there was a culture of silence in the RCMP. That culture of silence prevented us from being on social media. It prevented us from doing news interview and being candid. So we sounded like this matter is under investigation. I'm sorry. Like, everybody's already changed the channel, right?
Sorry.
And no, seriously.
It's true. That's why I'm laughing.
And there was no real people having the conversations. Meanwhile, our members are getting steamrolled in the media about every use of force there is, about any intervention they may have been a part of, which were highly dynamic and difficult. There was a defund the police kind of movement as a result of some of the stuff that transpired in the States, and I don't want to downplay some of the value in making things better at the police level. Like, we know there's always going to be work that way.
There's always bad apples in everything,
but
honestly.
For me, what it came down to is commanding officers everywhere were pretty much told, let Ottawa handle the communications with the outside. Some of those commanders went out and did it anyway, and there was some backlash, right? Not necessarily, it wasn't like retaliatory or anything like that, but there was some backlash, like, we need to be in step, and I understand that. Those are challenges that are faced by people at much higher ranks than me.
Yeah.
But you want me, the Sergeant Major, to be the conduit between the members and the people and the management and everything. I will be that. But you're not going to dictate how I will be that, right?
Yeah, because now you're going to be what they see.
Precisely. So basically what I did is I went out of the box and I got my social media completely reallocated to almost entirely professional, right? It was critical for me. My social media was always positive. I was never a guy that posted.
I don't think you have a negative thing on there.
No, and I don't, and I won't give into it, and I won't let people around me do that either.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that was that, look, we can affect the leaders. I can't deal with what the commissioner is doing over in Ottawa. I can't deal with what the ACOMs and the DCOMs are doing here and there or in other provinces.
Yep.
But what I can do is I can affect the senior constables, the junior constables, the corporals, the sergeants, the staffs that are here. And if we have, if we can build a culture that, of leadership within those ranks, don't worry about what happens at the ACOM and the DCOM level.
Correct.
Right? Because then everything will flow up, because the people won't be afraid. They won't be, what's the word? Filtering, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're a mediocre leader right now, and your people are not doing so great, and you are way past your bedtime, but your ego won't allow you to tell anybody, what you are doing is you are filtering what's happening down here to these guys.
Of course.
So now these guys are like, well, we don't have that much of a problem here.
Yeah, they're doing great.
This guy said, no, because you don't want to be exposed as the person that is unable to manage this part, you are now filtering. So if we teach those people all those amazing qualities that a leader must have, and that it is within their purview to affect the people around them extremely positively, even to the point of insulation against certain things, the upper management, we are fixing the problem from the inside. Okay. Alternatively, if we keep on whining and bitching about management, and what are you actually doing? What are you personally doing? Stop deflecting. What are you actually doing
to affect change
in this organization? So my approach was to be that person that was going to go out and have the conversations and say, actually, no, that's not the case. And no, and you know what? Ultimately, I took the heat. And if you're a leader that doesn't want to take heat, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah, because ultimately, whatever happens with your team is on you. Whether your team makes the decision or makes the plan and you walk them through it, you hear plenty of, I hear more, only because I guess I speak with more military, but I hear plenty of those guys, team leaders and things like that, in special forces. It's like, if you, or you read any of these things, you talk to these people, they'll say the same thing, like, the leadership has to be there. You have to be willing to speak up for your team. And if you're not able to do that, you're not a leader. And I think that's so important for people to realize, that it's okay to make mistakes. And I think people think that if you make a mistake, well, then you're not a good leader or you're not a good example. It's like, you can fuck up, but you need to own that you fucked up. This is how you're going to fix it, and then show me that you're going to implement the change. And then people will still follow you. Just because a leader makes one mistake does not make them a bad leader. It means that they're taking accountability, they're actually being honest and open about it, and showing their team that they can do better if they're willing to do better.
So that's essentially what spearheaded this whole movement. It was, I'm going to put myself out there. It has nothing to do with being David Coggins. I'm certainly no David Coggins, and I don't want to be.
Why? That guy is fucking awesome.
No, he is, but
he's so insane, though.
Again, I bring my own personality is a little bit more balanced. And
I'd say you're not screaming at me right now, so I feel like you're and your intensity level isn't of that. But I think there's something to be said for, and there's something to be said for people that can be like that, and there's something to be said for people that can be like you, which 100%. Is he has got his personality. That's the way he is. That's how he works. That's how he functions, and that's how he leads. And that is effective for some people, and some people need that, though. But some people need the complete opposite, where they need that quiet professional, and they need that soft-spoken person, and they need that person that can still, what's somebody said to me recently? Inspire, but always be afraid of the quiet person in the room. Yeah, the quietest person in the room.
Bruce Lee used to say that.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah, it's true.
He was the quiet person.
Well, exactly. But it's true, though. But there can be different styles of leading, as long as there's leading.
Sure.
I wonder, do you feel like maybe Jordan Peterson had a huge, I think he had a huge impact in that, taking accountability. When did you start reading about him? What did you learn within his, anything you take on into your leadership positions?
Oh yeah, tons. Yeah, tons. I mean, but again, this is another one of those things where it's continuous learning.
Of course.
Right? So it never stops.
For sure.
It's not like, I read 12 Rules for Life and Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, no, exactly.
4 years from now, I mean, and long before Jocko came around, long before Jordan P. Came around, I mean, he tackles a different, he tackles a different kind of trend, right? Which I really appreciated as well.
Yeah, because that needs to happen, because if we don't, the world that we're about to envelop with our children is terrifying.
It's that polarization of the extremes. It's like, I'm extremely all of this, or I'm extremely all of that. And if you're anywhere in the middle, you're either for or against us.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Talking about American politics. That's what we're talking about.
No, but it bleeds,
but that's like that with everything.
It bleeds into everything.
Yeah.
You can't be the dissident, or you get shamed. you get, exposed, quote unquote, because there's really no real exposure. You're allowed to be a dissident. We should want people to be dissidents so that we can move things along. But anyway, so Jordan, I think the first time I heard him speak was on the Jocko podcast.
Oh, okay.
I think. So I can't remember which number, but it's quite a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while now. Yeah, because he's kind of blown up since then.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, with the rise, I guess, of social media and the rise of podcasting and the rise of people reading, and allowing the acceptance of those who speak about leadership and things going on in the world to actually have a voice. I feel like we're seeing that kind of shift happen right now. Like you said, you have this kind of positive outlook on what's coming for the military, and this positive outlook, that's what's coming for the RCMP. And I am happy to see, at least with the RCMP, hopefully there'll be less issues in terms of maybe sexual assault, things like that, and accountability being held. And I think that comes, like I said, from the leadership standpoint. So it makes me happy to know that there can be that accountability even within a massive conglomerate organization as the RCMP. I do wonder, I want to ask you a little bit, if it's okay with you, about kind of, the SWAT or the ERT team and what that looks like, and how selection works and things like that. Because I feel like there's a lot of people, like you said, these kids, like this guy that you're working with, that don't really have a direction or don't really know where to go or don't know how to get into anything like that. Mm-hmm. For the military, you can walk into an office, a recruiter's office, and be like, hi, I want to join. And I know that because I did it. I don't recommend it. But I'm just saying, because no idea what I was signing up for. If you like camping, you love infantry, right? Do you ever remember hearing any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't it, but it was in French. So it just burned the ears a little bit worse. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious about it, because I think opening up the idea of the ERT team and specialized RCMP and things like that, I would just love you to kind of explain how you get in, what that world's like, what you're really looking at. Because like you mentioned to me, I didn't know what that really truly meant. I just thought I was going to be doing, cool things and all that. So rant away, my friend.
Sure. So essentially the emergency response team is the tactical arm of the RCMP, and there are part-times and full-time teams depending where you are in the country. Mm-hmm. Some of them are blended. Some of them have some full-time positions. Some of them have part-time positions, and basically their job is to take care of the calls that are beyond the capabilities of regular police officers. And this doesn't mean, it means by way of, it's not elitist, more of an elite training. So people say, well, there is an elite team, but it's not an elitist team where, they're much better in this and that and the other. No, there are reasons why that is, by way of selection, training, equipment. So everything that comes into play, that's put there so that they can be successful at what they're doing and handling calls that normally wouldn't be handled effectively. They may be handled, but they probably
people are going to die, but there's a way to, just a side note, I'm just going to totally interrupt you a few times here, because you were involved in a situation. Were you not?
In one?
Well, the one that was in the media, that was mostly in the media. Do you know which one I'm talking about? The maybe I'm like misremembering. It was a hostage.
Yes, I was not. No, I was already
not that one.
No, I was in. Oh, you saw a clip on my. Oh, okay, on my Instagram. Yeah, that one was a hostage taking following a shooting in Mission, and that basically culminated into a rescue in Coquitlam on a motor vehicle.
The reason I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because that in itself right there, that whole what the police can handle and then what you guys need to handle. Like, I feel like that's an epitome of that's a story right there that you can maybe illustrate the difference between, I would say, a regular police officer and what you guys do.
Yeah, it's very complex. Because it goes from having the ability to, respond to the initial call and having that immediate action capability. So should the hostage be located and the hostage taker be located, that there is a tactical capacity to deal with a mobile situation, a stronghold situation. So in a residence somewhere, in a train, in a bus, in an airplane, it doesn't matter where it is, the team has that. The team also has the ability to, from a command perspective, to use the critical incident commander and have an overall overarching response to these calls, which makes it organized and flowing. Right?
Okay.
It takes the totality of the circumstances under consideration. So that may be, are we dealing with somebody that has mental health issues? Are the doctors are kind of come in, the negotiators are going to be in, the bomb squad's going to be in, because it's a hostage rescue. We're likely to go through those options if we need to breach, or so we have a guaranteed entry point. All those things. So the team has the package, the knowledge, the skills, and the ability and the time on training to be able to deal with those. Because I can say to you, okay, here's a mobile target with the hostages in it, and there's 2 hostage takers. Like, how are you gonna just pull them over?
You're not gonna. I don't say the regular. I keep saying the regular RCMP, but the regular RCMP are not going to be the ones that are going to be able to handle that.
Patrol isn't going to be doing that, and they shouldn't be expected to even
Well, no, because then they're putting themselves in a situation where they're not equipped to handle it, and then that's how people get killed.
Sure, 100%. And so it's just by way of capacity alone. It's in my exposure as well. Then I think I should sort of quantify that. My exposure has been 13 years on a full-time team here in the Lower Mainland, one of the busiest team in the country, right? So my experiences, even though I have been exposed to many operators from the other teams all around the country, and tons of good people, there is at times team cultures that I have disagreed with that were outside of the realm of our team.
And that's in disagreement in terms of the leadership and how they handle situations?
Just maybe in terms of how they sometimes carried themselves and
we know all about that with the ERD team.
Well, no, you don't, because
I know all about that with correction. I know a lot about that with the ERD team in terms of how they carry themselves and the way maybe outside of when they're working. There's some of the people some of my friends that are in the RCMP and people I've met that were ERT members, and the way that they carry themselves outside the police departments, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure. So here's a surprise. If you are to create, how can I say that without burning the house down? Basically,
you don't have to burn the house down.
No, but basically what happens is this. If you say you're a pro fighter, okay, let's take it to wrestling and pro fighting. Let's take MMA, mixed martial art versus.
Yeah, I can do this.
Wrestlers.
I know martial arts. Let's do this.
Okay, so if you talk to people, that have met pro wrestlers,
correct,
what did they generally say about them?
Well,
generally, not always.
I don't know, cocky.
They had very little time. They kind of flew by.
Yeah, just like off to the next.
No matter how successful
yeah.
MMA fighters are, mm-hmm. generally, not always,
for the most part,
generally, they will take the time to be with their fans and to, you know, sign
there's a respect value about
Why
that.
Why is that?
Because there's a discipline taught.
Because they're fighting for real.
Ah.
Right? So every time that you're not doing the things, you feel the need to overcompensate.
Holy shit! I never even put that two and two together.
That's what happens. Every time I have met ERT members with major attitude issues,
yeah.
generally they had 5 calls under their belts.
Oh, so they're newbies, or they just don't.
They just
practice.
don't have the call volume, right?
Yeah.
So now when you deal with 300, 400 calls, or after a couple of years you get thousands, you get humbled. Like real quick. Yeah. And so you stay on the ground, right? So again, it's so I've had stories and people reaching into me saying, I've been dealing with this guys from the team in this location, without obviously specifics, and saying like there's a major attitude problem there and everything. And if I looked generally correlated to this is a very, very, very low call volume.
Interesting.
And for those teams that have very low call volumes, there are a ton of good guys. Like,
this you get
is
the
not
few.
Me saying that it comes, but this is where these attitude and we know.
Oh, you can tell right away
but
too.
But sometimes it's difficult. So I'll give you an example. I when I left the team, I rolled out one of the gates, and I'd spoken to somebody, and somebody had said to me that somebody had come across a certain way. Well, it's the second time that this person comes across a certain way.
Not the first time.
So it's like we need to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are basically when you show up somewhere in Greens,
you're an example of us.
You are representing the team, and I will be surmise, you know,
Yeah.
this should not happen
Yeah.
type deal, right? So, I guess enough said on that, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
And so your friends or those that likely were on the team were in the days
that makes a lot of sense.
where these guys were part-time, running robbery sections,
Yeah.
doing other jobs, and then
Yeah.
they would get together on the weekend, 2 days a month.
Yeah.
To
There's
do
no
things.
there's no like camaraderie, there's no team building, there's no none of that.
No, to a certain extent it was there, but just if you get consistently beaten into the ground by operations and making mistakes, and you humble down real quick. If you're not tested and you just get to wear the green and walk around everywhere, then it may create a
bit of an ego.
And it just has to be. That's why I tell all the Earth members and all the members in general, you are a representation of the organization.
Every single one.
And
too.
when you do something knuckleheadish at 4:00 in the morning in Timbuktu,
I'm gonna find out.
we all wear it.
Yeah.
Right? It's more of that. Is we all wear it. And that doesn't mean like don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean nothing's perfect. We understand that. But we're talking about willful, you know.
Yeah, willful behavior that shouldn't be. Yeah. No, I can understand that, and I can respect that. But it's nice to know that it's being called out, or it's being spoken about, or it's being adapted or changed or developed in a different way. I think that it goes though, like you said, there's when you have a low call volume, combined with, like you said, just not getting the shit kicked out of you all the time, mentally, physically, whatever it be. You're going to be sitting at a different mental level. And from the jiu-jitsu side, how long have you been doing that?
13 and a half years this year, I think.
So what belt are you at now?
4-stripe brown.
Oh wow!
Last belt before the
big one. Last belt before the big one. No, but that's a big deal, because it's the discipline, and it is a way of life, and it is, like you said, when you're getting choked out or you're getting kicked in the face, you learn really quickly how to be humbled. And I think that's where bringing your skills into, you know, back into the team again could be so well utilized, because the teams, as people come in and you know, if there's quieter times, it gives you that opportunity to really cultivate that strength within the leadership, and that willingness to, whether or not you've had, you know, low call volumes or not, that willingness to just be the good person that you should be from the get-go. When you guys are dealing with selection, is there any women who have ever made it through onto the ERT team in the RCMP?
Yeah. Val Parks I've worked with. She was in Toronto, I believe.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
We've had, here on the Lower Mainland team, we've had one a woman be successful, but she withdrew herself during right before going on the course, on the ERT course. So the way this works is we have, at the time it was a 3-day selection, but right now is our 5-day selection.
Okay.
So it's a 5-day selection camp. You have everything from, you know, the physicals to the cognitive to the scenario-based training to the shooting and patrol tactics and these types of things. So they're being evaluated on all of those, the teamwork, and the list goes on and on. I mean, it's a scientifically sort of, you know,
it's similar to the any of the cheat, any of the other.
And then there's a selection sort of phase 2, which is to test their ability to learn, teach them new skills that they're going to learn when they go on the course. Once the phase 2 is done, then they go, whoever's selected to continue will go to the course. And the course I believe is 8 weeks in Ottawa, and you're getting like full time. It's like,
it's on.
It's concentrated, and these operators are coming off the course now. They're way better than we ever were when I was on the course. Basically, for us, we were tough, you know, like
you're big guys.
No, not big. Just we were tough.
Tougher.
Like, we wouldn't
people.
quit ever. No, not tougher. We were tough. That's all we had, you know. Like
really, I don't know. You guys, like, there's a certain mental state to be in to surpass selection.
But that's precisely what I'm talking about. Mental toughness, physical toughness, all tied into it. So basically, we were getting beat up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There were some skills development there. There was some shooting evolution. There was some CQB, you know, and there was all kinds of skills. But the kids that are coming off the course now have a much better shooting package. They have a much better CQB package. They have a much better, you know, is all I'm saying.
Evolved. It's
totally,
evolved and gotten better.
It's no different than saying, like, the hills in 93 and looking at them now. Like, you are not even in the same galaxy.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was an evolution there. And so this... girl who's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Was successful. At the time, she wasn't a friend of mine, but as a result of being on selection, and I was responsible for the gut check, which is the physical component of selection. My job was to do everything that I asked them to do.
Okay.
During the entire selection.
Yeah, because you're not going to ask anybody to do anything.
So there's no like, oh, these guys are standing around while we're doing all this physical activity, evaluating us. No, they're actually with us. Most of them are older than us.
And kicking our ass.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we, it's more about testing him by inspiring than it is by just kind of
that the sense of leadership, that never asking anybody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself or with them.
100%.
I believe in that.
So I was involved with like 22 selection camps. Most of them, the last 6 or 7 had to do with the combatives. I run the combatives portion.
That also makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But the other side was the just the gut check, and she was an absolute animal.
Beast.
She was. She made it to a CrossFit game in 2009.
Holy!
I got injured and got out, but like at the time, of course, the games weren't what it takes to get on now.
Oh, I don't care. That's still impressive as hell.
Yeah, she was an absolute beast. I remember I had them all in a plank with a beast on. The beast is like a big frag vest. It essentially was a frag vest, and it was pretty heavy. And we had her in the plank. Well, we were all in the plank, and it was her and I left, and we were like 14 minutes in, and people
and the guys are just like, I hate myself.
She ran a train on.
That's the best.
It didn't matter what gender you were. You were getting your ass beat.
I love hearing that. That's why I ask about these women, because you don't hear often about them making the ERT team or making things like that. And I think it almost does a disservice, because then women don't feel like that's an option for the. I'm not a big like more women should be in the job. I'm the belief of, if you can do the job, you should be in the job, period.
Yeah. So when people ask about this, it's a very sensitive area for me, because we've been accused before of being unfair treatment, or not having girls on the team. I'm like, look, it's a numbers game. Yeah. Right? We have 100 guys trying out every year. 4 of those will make it in. Yeah. You have 2 girls try out.
Wait, good luck. It's not.
Maybe you'll fall on the one that will really rise up, which we did at one point. But it's like so the area of focus when it comes to having women, very capable women in these positions, is to let them and teach them that they can be in those positions. Exactly. Right. Exactly. And I think that as a society, we are seeing a wind of change in that department as well, because we have seen girls do things that seemingly they weren't supposed to be able to do. Like if you look at the, and again, I don't care if you're into CrossFit or not or whatever, but I'm taking CrossFit as an example.
Well, that's sports, so you can speak on it.
Because in 2007, the weights that the guys were using are the weights that the girls are throwing around, like nunchucks nowadays. Yeah. Right. So the evolution of the sport, we have taken these women. I've had some of my athletes train with some of the guys, and we're an entire team in there, and we're getting smoked.
Oh, I don't do that.
So I think it is more apparent now. It is more out there. Strong is the new skinny, and there's a wind of change, and it's very favorable to having these women come out of the woodwork. MMA, female MMA, I love it. The best thing to ever happen. Ever. I watched the girls fight. I watched the girls jiu-jitsu.
It's insane.
Grappling matches, like just so technical and so good. So anyways, I think what we need to do is do a better job at reaching out.
Yeah, just showing it's an option. If you can do it and you can prove it, then you should be able to do the job.
And there's a lot of girls that have the tools to do it, they don't want to.
Well, no, that too. Well, why? Well, if you don't,
a lot of guys that don't want to.
Well, yeah. Why do you want to put yourself through that? It's no different than people saying like, well, "I'm gonna go try out for buds." It's like it takes a special type of person to know that you're gonna just get your shit kicked for like an incredibly amount of time, and just knowing that you don't want to deal with that before even going into a situation, like you're already setting yourself up for failure. So don't even bother until you're in the right mindset. Sure. I think anybody can do it. You just have to be of the mindset. I do wish MMA was around when I was still fighting. Oh my God, I missed. There's something MMA. What year did MMA really, like when did the UFC
93.
Really? Okay, Jesus
93
Christ. I didn't even have to ask that. Words didn't have to finish out of my mouth. Did you see that, Coleman? Seb was ready for that.
Yeah, Seb loves anything.
Seb loves violence,
related.
violence.
No, I mean those are
healthy violence.
Those are tools of the trade, right?
Oh my God, are they ever? Especially for you. I mean, have you ever seen? This is going to be horrible. Have you ever seen? I like to preface myself with that. Have you ever seen a police officer in the United States trying to take an average police officer, patrolman in the United States trying to take down a person when they're trying to run away? It is hilarious because there is no training whatsoever on self-defense there. You can see that wholeheartedly. It is, number one, it's dangerous and people are getting killed because of it. But number two, the idea that somebody doesn't know how to do a chokehold on somebody and you're a career police officer, that kind of makes me sick to my stomach, to be frank.
Yeah,
a mandatory minimum of like a orange belt, yellow belt, or something in any sort of martial art should be like a staple.
So here's where this comes down to. So we have, if you look at, let's take the SEALs for example, right? Mm-hmm. They will go. What is their workup? 3 months for a workup, or
I don't know the
3
SEAls.
Or 6 months.
Yeah, it's roughly around.
So, anyways, I mean, the soft units will work up so much training.
Yeah.
So much. They will go on a deployment, come back, get back into a training cycle.
Yeah.
Redo, right?
Yeah.
Cops are doing this day in and day out.
Yeah.
Not on the same scope, understood. But
they're doing it.
All those hands and feet skills and all those intellectual skills, because I mean, we don't want to be like, I don't want goons. Like, we want people that
you want intelligent people.
That's right. So the intellectual side of things and everything needs to be consistently drove into the leadership side, everything. And we're not getting any of this organizationally by most of the organizations that we're in. There is a culture in policing in Canada that's policing is seen as a necessary evil.
You're going to get it or my?
You go ahead.
Goddamn fly. Murderer. Sorry, I killed a fly. PETA, don't come after me.
With chopsticks.
Yeah, chopsticks.
So there's a culture in the country, in Canada especially, I find, that we're a necessary evil. Oh, well, so we're having a hard time selling why we're doing what we want to do and how we want to do it, and the price tag associated with good policing is expensive, and it just is. So what we're doing is we, as the organizations, decide not to share what we do. So that really helps us. So can you tell us about this? No, it's under investigation, this, that, and the other. Okay, so what do you actually do? So what do humans do when they don't have an actual answer? They just make it up.
Oh, cool.
And it becomes a reality, right? So we don't know anything about policing. Most people don't.
No.
They just don't. They have no clue, okay? So now what they do is they will look at the social media. They will look at the media fanning out, which, by the way, out of the thousands of calls I've been on, 5 have been in the media, like whatever.
Well, yeah, because they're not going to pick up on that.
They're not going to be there, right? No. And so what happens is our training, our operational model is flawed, and that training isn't built into it. If training was built into it, we wouldn't have to worry about people training on their own time. This goes back to me shooting on my own time.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
If the team didn't provide the training or the shooting, I would have to go shoot on my own time. Yeah. How likely is that to happen? Once I just policed this and I just did this, and I got the kids, and you have the business, and you have this and that.
Yeah.
It won't happen. The priorities will go lower, right? So, anyways, what we need is an actual revamp where the organizations are responsible for training their departments.
Yep.
Excuse me. They're also responsible for the community outreach and teaching people this is why this is so challenging. And this is why we need our police officers to be better trained, not undertrained. And if you look at some of the areas where they've had problems with their police, oftentimes they're undertrained.
Incredibly.
They're underfunded. They're exhausted.
Yes.
They're
trauma-ridden, like no tomorrow.
100%.
And nobody's dealing with it.
Recipe for disaster.
It's honestly a shock that there isn't more unarmed shootings in the States. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how political that sounds. That's the reality. When you look at the amount of training or the lack of training that goes into some of these police departments, people come right out of high school, they get a gun given to them, and then they go patrol. No wonder people are nervous. People are nervous when they have guns on their hips and they don't know how to properly use them efficiently and effectively in a stressful situation. They will fire it unintentionally, whether it happens intentionally or not, something bad will happen when you give somebody a gun who is 20 years old and never been trained in a stress-inducing situation.
Sure. And to make matters worse, you put some absolutely unreasonable parameters on your recruiting processes. So let's make sure that anybody who's been in a fist fight isn't in there. Let's recruit from a demographics that's never really faced adversity. And those were challenges that we're faced with based on generational problems that we've had.
Correct.
Our parents were hardworking, doing the tough stuff, and then they wanted to protect us, so they made us as cushy, as comfortable as we possibly could, which created the other issue. There's a lot to be done in policing to change, but it is extremely difficult for police officers to do that. It's
individually.
Not their job.
You can't be asked to do that.
It's not. And so whose job is it? Well, as soon as something goes pear-shaped, the politicians are coming out the yin-yang, and what do?
They blame you guys right off the bat.
100%. They jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's political survival.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Obvious.
No.
It just is.
It is, 100%. So basically, if the bandwagon is going that way and I'm going that way, clearly these people are not voting for me. No. But if I jump on it, they're voting for me, right?
Yeah. I just wonder, when you're teaching, when you're working with your guys, I know it's frustrating. I know it's hard talking about it because the lack of, the lack of control that you guys have over the, you overlook and you watch over a team and you train them the best you can. And then when something happens tragic, which it does, I want to say less frequently in the ERT team versus like a regular service member. I don't know that for sure.
In terms of
fatalities or situational problems.
Well, and you mean like the members dying, or
correct.
Somebody from the?
No,
yes,
the members.
You are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like like you said, that goes to show to the level of training that almost needs to be had across the board rather than just with specialized units, and hopefully that could help to mitigate the the senseless death.
Yeah, there is another. There is another. Complicating factor when it comes to dealing with like what the calls the patrol deals with, and that's the ambush, right?
Yes.
And that's, I'm sorry,
you can't.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what soft team you were on, who you led and who you fought. If somebody wants you dead coming out of 7-Eleven when you're on the phone with your wife heading,
Yeah, it's going to happen. They're going to walk up to your window and they're going to shoot you in the
100%.
face.
100%. So you having that level of awareness and I'm constantly on high alert. Yeah, it's going to, you may be, but if somebody truly wants to ambush you, that's why ambushes are so, in the military sense, are so critical. Like, how are we going to regain momentum and how are we going to get off the X and how are we going to do this? Patrol has that component where the ambushes are real on them, as oftentimes we will know what we are getting into.
Because you're getting you guys are specialized unit. Yeah, you're
right? We're
it.
getting the intelligence because it's just happened.
Correct.
So, patrol, really, really dangerous place to be. Really dangerous place to be. You don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know. And once you do, and the ambush is coming to fruition, you actually don't have the proper
tools
KSAs to deal with it.
No.
Which makes it...
That's what I mean. They put it feels like it's almost like a backwards factor. They put, you have to have a certain amount of time in patrol before you can move up and do other things, and you have to, earn your stripes and expose yourself to these things. But it's like the training isn't enough to expose these, what they're being exposed to, and then it'll break people who weren't trained properly or given enough time with certain situations, and then they force them out there, and then they're on patrol, and then things like that happen, and people don't know how to react in stressful situations with a weapon. And that's what I feel like it comes down to. In a nutshell, is if you're not trained right, you cannot do your job properly.
Well, exactly. A stress inoculation piece is just one of those many pieces that are required, or that should be. And I mean, everybody does a decent job at the base level.
The best you can.
The issue is the continuation of that.
Yes.
Right? And those are perishable skills, and we all know that. So it's not like, hey, you learn how to do, a vascular neck restraint or whatever. Even some departments are highly political. They don't even use it. But
well, no, because they're too afraid of what.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, an oversimplistic.
Of course.
Yeah. But you may have been proficient at shooting, you may have been proficient at running, you may have been fit, you may have been all those things when you came out of training. as more time is put in between your basic training and where you are now, if you have not upkept these critical skills, you're in a world
you're in a
of
hurt big time. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I wonder if it should almost be mandatory to have some type of martial art experience a certain amount of time, or a belt level, or X, Y, and Z.
It would be very easy in a 6-month training program
to implement
to get everybody out of there as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it's on.
And
it's
you can do grappling.
Yeah.
I don't even care. Call it whatever you want, because you can do your jiu-jitsu, you can do your wrestling, you can do your no-gi jiu-jitsu, because obviously because we trained in the gi over in depot. But then what we also did is we split the ground in a stand-up, which is a big no-no to me. I want these people to be MMA sparring before they're leaving.
Ah, okay.
I want them to mix that.
Really?
That's absolutely.
And you find it's most effective that way.
100%. That's been proven over and over again. Like, it's been proven.
Oh no, I don't doubt it.
There is no discussion on what works and what doesn't.
It just works.
It does. Now, there's going to be like the little things that are specific to law enforcement, like some of the wrist locks and some of the Japanese jiu-jitsu type things. That can be utilized in the testing, because you're not going to just strike somebody with a closed fist right in the face if there are additional options, because ultimately we live in a world where we are constantly under scrutiny, right?
Yeah, you need to de-escalate, not increase.
Yeah, and there are ways to deal with things without being so drastic in your application of force,
or looking drastic in your application.
No,
of force.
Absolutely. I mean,
because you grab somebody the wrong way, and that could
use of force isn't pretty. There is no question, and being that interpersonal human aggression is the number one phobia. When people, if you're a normal human being right now, and you're standing at a bank lineup, and somebody butts in front of you, before you go tell them to go back at the back of the line, you have an adrenaline dump.
Of course you do.
Karen, you just ask someone to go back in the back of the lineup. Like, what would you have done if this was a sweaty 300-pounder on PCP?
Karen!
Like, you literally would have died.
Karen, your life would have been over, Karen.
You would have died.
You would have been died. You know what?
You can stand there and comment on what they should and could and would and whatever, but you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So, really interesting.
No, I don't know. I love martial arts. I think it's I almost want to implement it was the IDF, or you have to do like military service, like mandatory. I don't even know that military service needs to be mandatory. I mean, like a martial art should be mandatory before you leave high school or something. I just think I did it since I was 4 years old, and it creates a person that can have some center and like interpersonal discipline without having to learn it the hard way. You can learn it in a way that you learn such respect for not only yourself but those around you, but you also get humbled on a regular basis, where it just keeps that in check when you're going through, that teenage years and all the way up. You learn really quickly that there's always going to be somebody bigger, faster, and stronger than you, and the best that you can do is try to keep up with that, or make sure that you are being the best person you can be, so that you don't ever have to use those skills in those situations. But like I said, with policing, I'm always curious about it, because I see these YouTube videos, and I see these people, like one guy high on PCP, or naked, just flailing arms. There's like 5 cops trying to get him. It's like, you just got to grab somebody the right way one time with one hand, and that guy's going down. Like, it's just learning that technique and learning that safety for others. But like I said,
or just work together better, and
or
not
just
work
effort.
Against each other.
Yeah, communicate.
And, a coordinated approach, and I mean, there's always going to be there's always going to be that under really, really high stress.
Of course.
There will be a skills degradation. Period. Right.
That's natural, though.
But if you start at the base level, that's down here at the white belt level type deal, and you degrade to a less than that, we have some serious problems.
Yeah.
If you're a purple belt and you're now a blue belt, we are good to go. Yeah,
as long as you've got some skills, some techniques, some 100%. Ability on how to protect yourself so that you're not going to get shot in the face.
And then, after that, and what's interesting is we're really prioritizing the the paperwork. We're really prioritizing
the spelling and all of that stuff.
The putting the court package together so that the charges are sticking, and the court imposed burdens is so elevated for law enforcement. It is completely asinine. You know, you want some information to obtain 1,600 pages to try to obtain a warrant for a place. It's like, holy, okay.
What good is that?
Well, you know, this is for a completely different conversation. But I guess what I'm saying is, in terms of priorities of life, you can mess your paper up as much as you want. It will not get you killed or anybody else.
Correct.
But if you have to put so much time on this paper by way of the overburdened processes that we have in place, it will affect this part here, and this part will get you killed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So how do we fix that as a culture?
That's my hope, and talking with, I don't say people like you, but I say people like you, people who are doing the work, who fucking walk the walk, and they are not only doing it in the way that people should feel inspired by, just by even seeing your social media page, but you're doing the work when somebody reaches out to you. You're taking the time, you're being a good human. You're not just saying, hey, here's this and see you later, I've done my due diligence to help people. You're really implementing it, putting, you know, your the money where your mouth is, and you're going back in. You're training these people to be the example that we need 20, 30 years from now as things change and evolve. You're putting the, you know, implementation in place now, and I think that's what's going to make the difference with not only the RCMP but anything that you seem to touch. And I'm you know, really grateful I got the chance to chat with you, but I want to follow along with you. You are inspiring, you know, you truly are, and just getting to sit across from you, you can feel your energy. You feel such like you're so positive on the outlook of what we have coming for our future of policing, and I think that you're going to be a big reason why the RCMP is going to be looked at in a better light, and it's going to be trained better, and it's going to be proficient at what it does, and hopefully we start to see, you know, more positive change. And I think we're going to, and it's because of people like you, Seb, and I'm grateful that you're doing this work. Can you tell everybody your social media handles? Because I think what you do needs to be followed, needs to be paid attention to, because I think it is going to make a massive impact.
Sure, absolutely. I might get this wrong, so
get it wrong.
It'll be something like this. So my Instagram is the platform that I operate on.
Okay.
Facebook, I'm kind of there here and there.
Yep.
Although they're owned by the same people, but so Slav Cobra Commander is my.
Should have made it harder.
So it's SLAVCCMDR. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Slav Cobra Commander. It's like obviously.
We'll tag you and everything.
It's an acronym,
of course.
Right?
Of course.
And that's because people have asked this before, like, what is this Slavic? You know, so it's basically Cobra Commander was my nickname on the team. That's how the guys called me, and my name is Sebastian Lavoie, so Slav is my initials. That's all.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
So
and
that's where I do most of my business. Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll make sure to share all of that. But also next time I want to have you on, I already got a million questions. I want to talk about tattoos. Sure. I want to see where you're at with your leadership. I want to talk about your awesome kids, and I'm thrilled to hear that somebody's actually giving a shit about what's going on in this world in terms of holding people accountable and the leadership. So thank you, Seth, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.